y'all. Welcome to another episode of True North Sports Talk podcast. And today we are with you to bring you a preview of tonight's Grey Cup stemming from Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. And so just before we jump into everything, we have some new equipment that we're using, and I'm testing out some things. There's at least one spot you might see a commercial or two within the video. I apologize for that ahead of time. We did one take of this already, and I had made a mistake, so here we are. Round 2, and hopefully we get this right this time and that you can enjoy the episode. Alright, so as always, welcome to True North Sports Talk podcast. I'm Peter Barclay, and tonight is the night that Canadian football fans have been waiting for. And this is our version of the Super Bowl. This is the 112th Grey Cup, and it kicks off at 6 p.m., and that is from Princess Auto Stadium, as we mentioned, in Winnipeg. The Saskatchewan Roughriders were the CFL's best team during the regular season this year. At 12-6, they faced the Montreal Alouettes, who finished 10-8, and they were riding a 13-game winning streak with Davis Alexander under center. Now, he didn't play the whole season this year, so part of those 8 losses came while he was injured. This is Canadian football's biggest stage, and we're going to break down everything you need to know before kickoff tonight at 6 p.m. And the game will be broadcast on TSN, CTV, RDS for our friends in Quebec. That's across Canada. In the US, our American friends, CBS Sports Network. That's where you can find it. Internationally, you can stream it on CFL Plus, TSN streaming, and the sold-out crowd of 32,343 will witness a halftime show including MGK, and in the kickoff show, Our Lady Peace will be performing, and any fans across the world of those two artists will get to enjoy. So this is going to be a comprehensive look at the Grey Cup game that is about to take place tonight, and so let's dive into our first segment here, and we are looking at the painful history that Saskatchewan has playing Montreal in the Grey Cup. In 2009, they had the 13th man disaster. So tonight will be the third time that Saskatchewan and Montreal have met in the Grey Cup. The previous 2 matchups did not go well. They created some of the most painful memories for Riders fans in recent history. In 2009, Saskatchewan was 10-7-1 in the regular season, and they were facing a dominant 15-3 Alouettes. The Alouettes boasted Anthony Calvillo, Ben Cahoon. They had Duval doing the kicking, and just a crazy supporting cast that was all around them. And with 5 seconds remaining, even though they'd played Montreal tough, Montreal's Damon Duval entered to attempt a game-winning field goal on the final play. Now, Duval's kick sailed right, of all things, and Duval was a really steady guy back then, and Saskatchewan was about to pull off the Herculean upset Unfortunately, the field was covered in flags. They had too many men on the field. The Roughriders had 13 players on the field, and in CFL football, that's too many. Now, the Roughriders all season long as players have been saying the 13th man makes all the difference. That had been their slogan, and is almost always their slogan. But what that refers to is their fan base. In this case, though, it was a devastating misstep. And Montreal had another attempt, Duval had another attempt, and Montreal ended up winning the Grey Cup. Now, 2010 was a rematch from 2009. And both teams worked real hard, got back to the Grey Cup. And you say, how could it get any worse for the Roughriders? Well, it was. They were down 3 with a minute left, and they were on the drive. At that point, Darian Durant was their quarterback, and he just, one of those scrambling, gotta get rid of it, can't let it get intercepted plays, and he was just throwing the ball to the sideline, and as you can't really say luck, but as it turned out, that pass was intercepted, and that sealed Montreal's back-to-back championship wins over Saskatchewan. We're now 15 years later. Saskatchewan has a clean slate. They get another chance against those same Montreal Alouettes, and they get a chance at redemption. And so this storyline, it really matters, because even though all the players are different, all the coaches are different, the fan base still remembers, because a lot of their fan base are older than 15 years old, and they will remember what happened way back then. So the question is, can the Roughriders finally exorcise those demons? Trevor Harris, the quarterback for Saskatchewan, he's actually on a quest of his own. He has 2 Grey Cup rings, but none of them as the starting quarterback. He lost in 2018 as the Grey Cup starter when he was with the Ottawa Red Blacks, so that gives him an 0-1 record as a starter in the big game. He's been here before, he knows what to expect. This is his second attempt to win it all as the starting quarterback. Interestingly, at one point, Trevor Harris is a former Montreal Alouette, so he knows the organization very well inside and out. He's playing against his former team, and all the marbles, everything is on the line. It's been 12 years since Saskatchewan last won the Grey Cup. That was in 2013. They weren't playing Montreal at that point, which is probably a blessing for them. They defeated Hamilton on home turf at Mosaic Field. And 12 years for a franchise and a fan base that is as rabid as the Saskatchewan Roughriders, it's been too long for them. So tonight represents their best chance in over a decade to bring that trophy back to Regina, being the Grey Cup. Alright, so this is probably where we're going to see the commercial, but we're going to talk about Davis Alexander, Montreal's quarterback, and it is doing it to me once again. I apologize for the commercial, but this is a young man in Montreal that is really worth tuning into the game tonight in order to see. As a starter in the CFL, Davis Alexander is undefeated. So let me repeat that. As a CFL quarterback, he is 13-0 including this season's 2 playoff victories, this year Montreal is 9-0, while Alexander is in the lineup. This isn't just winning. This is historic for this young quarterback. No quarterback in CFL history has started their career with a longer undefeated streak. Let that sink in for a moment. You got Ron Lancaster, Warren Moon, Doug Flutie, Damon Allen, Danny McManus, Tracy Ham, Anthony Calvillo, and you got Dave Dickinson, Jason Moss, Ricky Ray. You got all these guys, Jeff Garcia even, that have gone through the CFL, and guess what? None of them have started 13-0. So this kid is doing something that's very, very historic. Here's the one issue where this streak might come to an end tonight, and that is Alexander has been dealing with a left hamstring issue that caused him to miss 11 games at one point this season. And while he missed those games, Montreal went 3-8, which is why I said earlier that those 8 losses were with him on the sideline. And they had backup McLeod Bethel Thompson that we here in the Toronto area know well, as he was our quarterback for a while, or at times in the double blue. Head coach Jason Moss admitted that Alexander will not be fully healthy for the Grey Cup, even though both Moss and Alexander promise he's going to be there to start. Alexander practiced Wednesday but was listed as a limited participant, and they need his legs to be working at full steam because he's a scrambling quarterback. He makes plays with his legs, and can he change direction? Can he take off? Can he do the things that he normally does? Can a quarterback who's got a compromised hamstring beat the CFL's best team in the championship game? His arm is going to be tested if his legs are in any way limited, so he's going to need to be very accurate on his throws tonight. Alexander's mobility is a huge part of his game. He takes off, he runs, he creates plays with his legs. He needs his legs in order to complete proper throws to his receivers. And so a hamstring injury really does impact that ability. Montreal is betting their season on an injured quarterback who hasn't lost a game in his career. This is either brilliant confidence or a massive risk. So playoff performances for this kid in the East Division semifinal, Alexander and Montreal, even with that hamstring, outgunned Winnipeg, one of the better teams in the CFL the last 6 years, 42-33, ending the Blue Bombers' hopes of tying that record with 6 consecutive Grey Cup appearances. Last weekend, the Alouettes marched into Hamilton. They upset the first place Tiger Cats 19-16 on a walk-off 45-yard field goal by their kicker this time around, Jose Matos Diaz. And Alexander wasn't spectacular, but he was able to manage the game effectively enough for Montreal to come away with the win. As we mentioned before, the X factor. If Alexander's hamstring holds up and he can move around like he normally does, that makes Montreal so much more dangerous. And if he's limited, or if Saskatchewan's defense is able to target his legs and that injury, then the Alouettes are probably going to struggle offensively. This is the storyline to watch for Montreal tonight is, will Alexander's health determine who the winner of the Grey Cup is? Alright, so switching gears here, we're going to talk about some Saskatchewan, Montreal, their defense kind of stuff. And here we go again. It's doing this again. Where is it? There it is. Alright, so we'll give it a moment. Get through its stuff there. I apologize, guys. I gotta figure out a way to minimize this or mitigate it in the future. But we're gonna, as we all know, there we go. Defense wins championships. So both of these teams finished in the top 2 in the CFL in net yards allowed. In the more advanced metric of yards per play allowed, Montreal was actually the best team in the league at 6.02. And that's more than a third of a yard better than the second place BC Lions mark. So, that it makes it no surprise that Montreal made it this far in the playoffs. Saskatchewan finished 5th, which is middle of the pack, and their yards per play allowed was 6.65. That's still really good, but it's not quite at Montreal's level. So they're going to have to clean that up quite a lot in order to make this be that close barn burner that we're looking at. Montreal has some defensive stars on their side that really make them better as a defensive team. Darnell Sankey, 3rd in the league in tackles, the heart of Montreal's defense. You got Tyrese Beverett. He has 7 sacks, 4 interceptions. He's a playmaker on defense that creates turnovers. And in the championship game, you really need that. Isaac Adiyemi Berglund, he was a finalist for most outstanding player behind Nathan Rourke. He was a defensive dynamo with 11 sacks. And Montreal's defense has the power to blow up the passing game of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And they also have to find a way to contain Ouellette on defense. And they created 5 takeaways plus 4 turnovers on downs as they played in the East Final. Alright, so Saskatchewan's defensive identity. The Roughriders have the CFL's best run defense, which is going to make them a tough test for Alexander's hamstring. They only allowed 76 rushing yards per game, and that's a critical number because, as we mentioned, Alexander's mobility is a huge part of Montreal's offense. Saskatchewan forces teams to pass by shutting down the run. However, they've been susceptible at times to breaks in the coverage. They make up for it by being nearly impossible to run against, though. And so that's the thing, is if they can stop the run, and if they can really make it difficult for you to get your passing off and to mix up your offense, they're a tough team to play against. Montreal has the best pass defense in the league, ranked 6th on the run defense, and Saskatchewan has the best run defense, and out of 9 teams, the 8th ranked pass offense, so they're going to have to be really on point with that pass defense. But these defenses are built to stop the other team's strengths, being the running game for the Montreal Alouettes and the pass against Saskatchewan. So Montreal's pass defense, Saskatchewan's passing attack, Saskatchewan's run defense against Alexander's scrambling ability. That's where you're going to get a lot of your battle. Montreal thrives on creating turnovers. Saskatchewan needs to protect the ball, and whichever defense forces more turnovers likely wins this game and wins the Grey Cup. So what are the offensive keys here? Well, you got Harris versus Alexander. Trevor Harris, at 39 years old, ranked third in the CFL in passing yards this season. That was behind only Bo Levi Mitchell in Hamilton, the aforementioned Nathan Rourke in BC, and he finished second to Rourke in passer rating. So at 39 years old, he really has to do a good job of those things that got him to this dance. Harris led a game-winning drive in the Western Conference Final, and he started at his own 34-yard line with 1:03 on the clock and ended with a clutch touchdown pass to Tommy Neild, and they had run it down to just 11 seconds left. That's the veteran leadership that Saskatchewan's going to need, and the clutch performance under pressure that is really going to make this game come down to the wire. AJ Ouellette, as we mentioned earlier, Saskatchewan's ground game, he has been really good for a long time, but this year he had career highs in rushing yards at 1,222 and touchdowns with 8 this season. He rumbled for 113 yards on 17 carries in the Western Final. So if Saskatchewan wants to win, they must run the ball effectively. They got to protect the ball, and they have to be able to use that running game to bring that passing game into a more open way. So, if Montreal's front seven can't contain Ouellette, it opens up everything for Harris and the passing game. Then you have Kashawn Johnson. Is he going to be the X factor or the missing piece in Montreal's offense? In Saskatchewan's offense. He is Saskatchewan's star receiver. He made 86 catches for 1,159 yards and was fourth in the league. He missed the last 2 games with a knee injury, including the Western Final, and his status for tonight's Grey Cup is actually up in the air and uncertain at this point. Johnson being one of Harris's key targets on offense, and Ouellette running the ball, those two things playing off each other, that makes Saskatchewan's offense significantly more dangerous. If he's out, that gives one less thing for Montreal to focus more attention on. They can bring another guy to the box to try and control Ouellette, and so that's going to be an X factor on Saskatchewan's side, whether he's able to play, whether he's not. Now, we know from watching the Blue Jays run that even guys who are injured and still play can make an impact, a la Bo Bichette, a la George Springer. As we discussed, Alexander on the other side is 13-0, but he's dealing with that hamstring injury. So his ability to throw it downfield, escape pressure with his legs, that makes Montreal's offense far more unpredictable. So Montreal will need Alexander to be smart with the ball, avoid turnovers that are based on indecision, that rookie inexperience, that kind of stuff. They need him to slow things down and bring the game back to him. They need him to make enough plays to keep Saskatchewan's offense off of the field. So the offensive battle, Saskatchewan really is going to want to run the ball with Ouellette. They want to use that to control the clock and let Harris manage the game with his play action passes and just his veteran savvy. Montreal wants to play a little more brash. They want Alexander to create plays, use his legs, use his arm, keep Saskatchewan's defense guessing, keep them off balance, and see how that takes them. Now to the head coaching battle. Corey Mace is debuting as a head coach in the CFL. He was a player back in the day. I remember him as a player. He's been a coach on multiple teams. He actually has Grey Cup rings as both of those positions, but this is the first time as the head guy. So Corey Mace will make his Grey Cup head coaching debut tonight. As a player, he won the championship with Calgary in 2014. As a coach, he won 2. He was a defensive line coach with Calgary in 2018, and he was a defensive coordinator with the Double Blue in Toronto back in 2022. Now, he's getting his first He's getting his first chance to win as a head coach. So there's going to be a lot of pressure there. Saskatchewan finished with the CFL's best record at 12-6. In Saskatchewan, with their fan base being as rabid as it is, anything less than a Grey Cup championship will be viewed as a disappointment, given the talent they have on this roster, the regular season success that they had, and the fact that these fans were there for those disappointments 15 years ago. Corey Mace has handled the pressure well all season, but as we all know, the championship game, no matter what sport you're in, this is different. This is the Grey Cup against a hot team with an undefeated quarterback. So those coaching decisions are going to be very important on Saskatchewan's side. Now the other side of that matchup is Jason Maas. This is a former quarterback in the CFL. This is a former Grey Cup winning coach in the CFL, as he won with Montreal back in 2023. He knows how to win the big game. Corey Mace is as yet unproven at this level as a head coach. And the coaching decisions, from timeout management, fourth down calls, whether you go or whether you punt, the defensive adjustments, these could be the difference in a close game. And that's where experience as a coach and inexperience as a coach make all the difference. Alright guys, so we're all fans of this game, right? We're all looking for that little tidbit of information as a fan that determines our side, whatever we're looking for, right? So what are we as fans searching for heading into the Grey Cup? Well, if you're a Montreal fan or even a Saskatchewan fan, you want to know what the status of Davis Alexander is going to be. Maybe you're one of those people, and we'll get to you guys a little bit later on, but maybe you're betting on this game. You need to know what Davis's status for the injury is to know which way you're going to bet, whether you're up, whether you're down, whether you're on this, whether you're on that. Everyone wants to know if he's going to be healthy enough to play at full capacity. This is really one of the highest searching volumes that people are looking at heading into this game. Something else people want to know, and again this could affect people's betting strategy, is they're looking back at 2009, that 13th man disaster. They want to understand the context of that history with Montreal in Grey Cups. Also, the 2010 mishap as well. So, for all you betting guys out there, as we said, what are the Grey Cup odds? Saskatchewan at this point is favored by 3.5 points on BetMGM. The betting public at this point is backing the Roughriders despite the undefeated streak for Montreal's Alexander. So at this point, it seems like the bettors are betting that this is the day that Davis Alexander's win streak comes to an end. People are looking at Trevor Harris's Grey Cup record because they want to know if he's going to be the guy that is able to get his first win as a starter and break that streak for Davis Alexander. One of the other factors that is going to play a part in this Grey Cup, as we all know, it's Canada, it's mid-November, it's Winnipeg, which is in the middle of the country, so the weather could be anything goes. Now the forecast is calling for -4 Celsius, and for our American counterparts down there, that's mid-20s to like the early 20s in Fahrenheit degrees. Now the winds are going to be between 8 and 12 kilometers per hour, and it's cold but manageable for Canadian football weather. It's going to be like playing in Green Bay. So the halftime show, people want to know who's going to be in the halftime show this year. It's MGK, also known as Machine Gun Kelly. He's performing in his first ever show in Winnipeg, and that's going to draw casual fans that maybe aren't even football fans, the same way the halftime show does in the Super Bowl. And so they're going to be interested in the entertainment as much as they are in the game itself. And people are going to tune into the opening segment just to see Our Lady Peace as well. Alright, so what are the bullet points to watch in tonight's game? Well, you got Davis Alexander's health. You're going to want to watch early in the first quarter to see his mobility and if that changes over the course of the game. Montreal has a real chance here, but if he's not able to move around the way he normally does, Saskatchewan's defense will feast. And are they going to take shots at his legs when they can to try and use that injury to their advantage? You're going to want to look at Saskatchewan's run game. AJ Ouellette, can he establish a ground attack against Montreal's front seven, which is really good at stopping the run? This will determine if Harris can work his play action effectively and move the ball downfield with his passing game. One of the other bullet points we're going to want to look at for tonight's game. Montreal thrives on turnovers. It's the turnover battle. Can Saskatchewan protect the ball and create some turnovers of their own? The team that wins this turnover battle usually is the team holding the Grey Cup at the end of the game. So, both teams have to be on point. They have to keep their penalties to a minimum so that their teams have a chance to win the game. The coaching decisions, you're going to want to watch those. In a close game, you're going to have Corey Mace versus Jason Moss. That could be a difference. Experience versus fresh perspective. Which one is going to make the right call in those tough games? And as much as this game is not in Saskatchewan, there will be tons of Saskatchewan fans that drove over one province to see this game in Winnipeg. And they remember 2009, 2010. And so they're going to want to see if Saskatchewan can finally beat Montreal in a Grey Cup game after those two devastating losses. Alright guys, so don't forget, tune in tonight, 6 p.m., Princess Auto Stadium in Winnipeg, hosting the 112th Grey Cup. You got your Saskatchewan Roughriders looking for redemption against the Montreal Alouettes. You got Trevor Harris looking for his first Grey Cup as a starter. And you have Davis Alexander seeking to continue that undefeated streak. You got Corey Mace looking for his first championship as a head coach. And this is Canadian football at its finest, guys. This is the Grey Cup. So let's keep talking about it. Keep following True North Sports Talk podcast for complete coverage. Look out for that 3-minute drill around midnight tonight. We're going to have reactions and just talk about the game a little bit, see how it went. Throughout the game, use True North Sports Talk podcast as a way to keep going with this game. And yeah, let us know what you guys are thinking, what's going on with you guys. And so, until next week, y'all. Sorry for the commercials at a couple of points. Hopefully it gave you some other things to look at while we were talking about the games. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking around to the end. And until next time, please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy.